The past hides many secrets, and we're here to uncover them. Join us on this epic journey through history. On October 30th, 1759, the Middle East was rocked by a powerful earthquake. Cracks appeared in the walls of homes, and roofs began to collapse. People ran outside, gathering in open areas. But the shaking was so intense, they kept losing their balance and falling over. A month later, another earthquake hit, this one even stronger. Trees snapped, houses crumbled, and deep cracks split the ground. The disaster lasted for 2 full minutes, wiping out oases, roads, and entire towns. Amazingly, the ancient buildings of Baalbek stood strong through it all.
The most stunning structure in Baalbek is the Temple of Jupiter. The Romans believed Jupiter had control over thunder and lightning. The temple looked like a massive platform with 54 giant columns holding up a huge roof. Today, only 6 of those columns remain, each standing 70 feet tall. Every column is made up of 3 massive pieces and shaped like a pencil. The cores of these pencils were filled with lead, which made them incredibly strong. Each piece weighed about 80 tons. That's like the weight of 35 Ford Explorer SUVs. To put that in perspective, the biggest stone block in the Great Pyramid of Giza looks tiny next to the ones in Baalbek. Underneath the Temple of Jupiter, the foundation is made up of around 25 tightly fitted stones, each weighing 450 tons, nearly 4 times the weight of the pyramid blocks in Egypt. On top of that, there are 3 more massive stones in the foundation, each weighing 800 tons.
About 3,000 feet away from the ruins, there's a quarry where archaeologists believe the stones were originally cut. There they found a giant limestone block that was massive, even for Baalbek standards. They called it the Stone of the South. It's 65 feet long and 13 feet wide and still partially attached to the bedrock because it was never fully removed. A team of Austrian scientists estimated its weight at over 1,000 tons. That's about the same as 3 Boeing airplanes or 160 African elephants. But the surprises didn't stop there. Nearby, archaeologists found another stone weighing over 1,200 tons. And in 2014, German archaeologists discovered an even bigger one in the same quarry, a single block weighing 1,650 tons. That's as heavy as 125 school buses. To this day, no one knows why ancient people needed such a gigantic piece of stone or how they planned to move it. And since it was never used, the mystery is even deeper. Still, this third monolith is considered the largest processed stone in human history.
Some researchers believe that ancient civilizations might have had advanced technology we don't know about. Others disagree, but they're still trying to figure out how those massive stones were moved.
And Baalbek isn't the only place full of ancient mysteries. Around the world there are countless buildings and artifacts that leave scientists scratching their heads. For example, near the step pyramid of Djoser in Egypt, archaeologists discovered a maze of underground tunnels called the Serapeum. Inside, there are 24 huge stone sarcophagi weighing between 70 and 100 tons each. They were carved from solid granite blocks and topped with incredibly heavy lids.
The craftsmanship is so precise that the surfaces are perfectly smooth, like glass, and the symmetry is flawless. Even with today's tools, making something like this would be extremely difficult, but somehow the ancient Egyptians did it. They actually pulled this off. The Lycurgus cup is an ancient artifact that's not just priceless, it's also a prime example of old-school nanotechnology. This thing is made of glass that literally changes color. If you shine a light in front of it, it glows green. If the light is behind it, the cup turns a deep red.
That's when the image of the Greek king Lycurgus appears in a soft purplish shade. Scientists didn't figure out how this color change worked until the late 20th century. Under the microscope, they discovered nanoparticles of silver, gold, and copper embedded in the glass.
That's what causes the color-shifting effect, known as dichroism. The metals were ground down into fine dust, something nearly impossible to do by accident. Most experts believe the ancient craftsmen knew exactly what they were doing.
In Bolivia, there's a bizarre place called Pumapunku. It looks like an ancient giant dumped a massive Lego set and forgot to clean up. But no giants were involved, just ancient builders over 1,500 years ago who carved and moved huge stone blocks.
Some of these rocks weigh up to 100 tons and were transported to about 13,000 feet above sea level from a quarry that's 60 miles away. There are no forests in that area, so they couldn't have used logs to roll the stones.
And here's the kicker. This site belonged to the Inca civilization, and we're pretty sure they didn't even know about wheels. So how'd they do it?
In 1992, villagers in China decided to drain a pond that their ancestors had used for laundry and fishing for generations. After 17 days of pumping water, they found something completely unexpected, a massive cave entrance going down 100 feet.
This amazing discovery became known as the Longyu Caves. Inside, unknown builders had carved out over 320,000 square feet of tunnels, chambers, bridges, pools, and support columns. The walls are covered in strange lines and patterns. No one knows who built them, when, or why. And the method used to carve the caves? Still a mystery.
Back in 18th century Italy, a man named Antonio Stradivari crafted musical instruments, most famously violins. Over 600 of his instruments have survived, and 500 of those are violins, one sold at auction for $16 million.
People say his violins produce a clear, deep, almost magical sound. Researchers still can't figure out exactly why they sound so good. Some think it's the varnish Stradivari used. Others think it's the wood. Europe was going through a cold spell at the time, which made the trees grow slower and denser. That denser wood may have given the violins their legendary tone.
In Delhi, India, there's a 23-foot-tall iron pillar that weighs 6.5 tons. It's made of 98% pure iron, and it's been standing for over 1,600 years without rusting.
Scientists think the dry weather and the chemical makeup of the metal helped preserve it. But even now, they're not totally sure how ancient blacksmiths managed to forge rust-proof iron. It's something modern metallurgists still find challenging.
There's also a rock formation in Saudi Arabia called the Al-Nasla rock that's split perfectly in two, like someone sliced it with a giant laser.
Each half balances on its own little stone base. Some people think it's proof of ancient laser tech, but geologists say the crack was probably caused by natural movement of the ground over thousands of years.
Here's the thing. As time goes on, human knowledge fades faster than you'd think. Just imagine. Our grandkids might stare at old-school phone buttons one day and ask, what was this even for?
So it's no surprise that some ancient artifacts leave us scratching our heads too.
Take this strange object, for example. Can you guess what it is? A musical instrument, a toy, something extraterrestrial? No one really knows.
It's called a Roman dodecahedron, and it was found by amateur archaeologists near Lincoln, England. It's small, about the size of a fist, made from a mix of metals and shaped like a 12-sided die.
The real mystery. What was it used for?
These odd objects were once common in Roman Gaul and parts of Germany. Some even turned up as far as Southeast Asia, along ancient trade routes. The mystery deepens with every new discovery.
A few had wax residues inside, suggesting they might have been candlestick holders.
Others think they were tools for knitting gloves, though no direct evidence of that has been found.
More ancient mysteries that still have us guessing.
Some of these strange Roman dodecahedrons were even found in warmer regions. One was discovered in Geneva with zodiac signs engraved on it, which, of course, sparked a bunch of wild theories about astrology and fortune-telling.
And now there's a new discovery that has everyone scratching their heads.
Could these objects have been some kind of sacred Roman tool? Who knows? Maybe they were even the first ever multi-tools, long before Swiss army knives were a thing.
Stone spheres of Scotland, a prehistoric puzzle.
These date back to the late Neolithic period and come in different types of stone, from sandstone to granite. Another mystery, the carved stone balls from Scotland.
Almost all of them are about the same size and have symmetrical, detailed patterns made up of rounded knobs or bumps.
Some are beautifully crafted with extra decorative touches. Most of them have 6 bumps, but the number can range anywhere from 3 to 160.
Over 400 of these balls have been found, mostly in Scotland, though a few turned up in northern England and Ireland.
They rarely show signs of wear or damage, and no one really knows what they were used for.
Experts think they weren't tools, but probably held symbolic or social significance, possibly signs of power or status in ancient communities. The mysterious Folkestone drums.
The Folkestone drums are another ancient mystery. 3 carved chalk cylinders from the Neolithic era in Britain. They were unearthed in the late 1800s in a burial mound in East Yorkshire, and nothing else like them has ever been found anywhere in the British Isles. Each drum is decorated with unique geometric patterns across the sides and tops. 2 of them even have stylized human faces carved into them. Recent studies using modern tools showed that the carvings were added and reworked over time. Researchers also found that the drums were made from local chalk.
In Bronze Age Europe, long before coins were invented, carefully crafted metal objects acted as portable wealth and status symbols.
Across the continent, archaeologists have found everything from fancy gold jewelry worn by elites to large bronze cauldrons used in feasts. Among these are some stunning gold lock rings found in Wales. These rings were probably used as hair fasteners. Today, they're flattened after spending nearly 3,000 years underground, but they once had cone-shaped openings at each end. Although found at different times, they were likely worn in pairs and buried together.
Makeup kits, not necklaces.
Some Roman artifacts made of copper alloy were originally thought to be crescent-shaped pendants. But after a recent re-examination, experts discovered they were actually miniature mortar and pestle sets, used for grinding cosmetic powders. These little tools were used to apply eyeliner and eyeshadow. They looked like pendants because of the rings that allowed them to be worn on a cord. These beauty kits date back to the 1st century AD and were unique to Roman Britain. They show how beauty trends and cosmetics were imported from Rome and Egypt into the far corners of the empire.
A 12,500-year-old sphinx in Pakistan? In Pakistan, archaeologists recently made an incredible find, an ancient sphinx statue, estimated to be around 12,500 years old. It was discovered in a region that was once a major hub of the Indus Valley civilization, known for its advanced city planning, intricate art, and sophisticated drainage systems. Unlike the famous Sphinx of Giza, this one has carvings that show scenes of daily life, suggesting it may have had a deeper cultural or religious meaning, possibly representing a balance between humans and nature, or even a farming-related deity.
Ancient mummies in the world's driest desert. In Arica, Chile, nestled in the sand dunes of the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, lies another mystery. Long before the coastal town was founded in the 1500s, the Chinchorro people lived there. Archaeologists have discovered hundreds of mummies in the region. Radiocarbon dating shows some of them are over 7,000 years old, making them older than the mummies of Egypt. These ancient people may have been among the first in the world to mummify their dead. Some of these mummies are actually 2,000 years older than the famous Egyptian ones. The Chinchorro people had their own special mummification techniques, and they didn't just rely on the dry desert climate. Unlike the Egyptians, they didn't reserve mummification for society's elite. They did it for everyone, regardless of age or social status. Today, locals in Arica, Chile are so used to finding mummies in their backyards that living alongside ancient remains doesn't even faze them anymore.
In the winter of 1850, a powerful storm hit the Orkney coast in Scotland, bringing high tides and strong winds.
The waves tore away at the shore, exposing a hidden mound, and underneath it, stone structures.
A local archaeologist decided to excavate the area, thinking it was an Iron Age village.
He uncovered the remains of 4 houses and several artifacts from 2 villages.
Because the settlements were buried in sand, they were extremely well preserved.
At the time, there was no carbon dating, so figuring out how old everything wasn't easy.
Nearly a century later, with modern technology, researchers confirmed that the site actually dated back to the Neolithic period.
Today, you can still see stone cupboards and box beds in these prehistoric homes.
Archaeologists and historians studying the famous terracotta army believe it may have been inspired by ancient Greek sculptures.
This suggests there was East-West cultural contact much earlier than previously thought, even before the Silk Road was established.
It's believed there may have been Western influence in China during the reign of the country's first emperor, who took the throne in 246 BCE.
Before that, China didn't have a tradition of making life-sized statues.
Earlier terracotta soldiers were less than 10 inches tall.
Some experts think Greek artists may have been present to help train Chinese sculptors.
The Azores are a group of 9 islands in the Atlantic Ocean, located about a third of the way between Europe and North America. According to history books, Portuguese explorers discovered the islands in the 15th century, and before that, they were thought to be completely uninhabited. The islands are still part of Portugal today, so it all seems pretty straightforward, except some researchers believe an ancient civilization may have lived there thousands of years ago. Others even think Atlantis might have been located there.
In 2010, archaeologists announced they'd found what looked like Stone Age structures on the islands. If true, it would mean there was a civilization advanced enough to reach and settle these remote islands long before the Portuguese. A scientific committee investigated the claims and concluded the formations were either natural rock formations or much more recent in origin. So, officially, the Portuguese were the first settlers. But that hasn't stopped some passionate researchers.
They analyzed the DNA of Azorian house mice and found it matches that of mice from northern Europe. Since mice can't sail across oceans on their own, they must have been brought by humans, suggesting people arrived before the Portuguese. The story gets even more interesting.
Dr. Felix Rodriguez from the University of the Azores is determined to find out exactly when that happened. He's been studying massive stone structures found across the islands. Similar structures in Western Europe and the Mediterranean date back to the Neolithic period. According to Dr. Rodriguez, the oldest structures on the islands are around 4,200 years old, though it's unclear when or why they were abandoned. He's identified 7 megalithic structures in one area that appear to be dolmens, likely used for burials. The chambers are cylindrical and definitely don't look natural. Tests show the rock used in these chambers is at least 2,500 years old, and there are pieces of pottery nearby that might be even older.
The rocks seem to have been moved too. You can see it from the patterns in the volcanic lava, which is too thick and sticky to create vertical marks naturally. Someone must have lifted the rocks into place. Another fascinating discovery is stone anchors with holes found by the sea. Anchors like these were used in the Mediterranean and Atlantic coasts of Europe between 1000 and 2000 BCE. The 15th century Portuguese never used stone anchors, they used metal ones, so these must have belonged to earlier sailors.
Researchers also found a structure built directly on top of a volcano. It looks very similar to 2,000-year-old Mediterranean buildings known as columbariums, which were used to store cremated remains. Next to it, they found something that resembles a furnace, suggesting it may have been part of a larger funeral complex. There's also a basin in the middle, and it's not the only one of its kind on the island. This island must have had a special meaning for the people who built it. There are canals surrounding the structure, connecting 4 pools. Each pool catches sunlight at different times of the year. The layout was planned with incredible precision, so that the pools are lit up during the summer and winter solstices, as well as the spring and autumn equinoxes. Water used to flow through all the pools and then drain straight into the sea, possibly as part of a cleansing ritual.
Today, some people are skeptical of these findings. They think the structures might just be remains of a 16th century fort, but Professor Rodriguez is determined to prove they're much older. He believes there must have been an ancient civilization on the islands that left because of the volcanoes, which erupt roughly every 50 years.
Antonia Costa, a graduate student at the University of Porto in Portugal, also believes early humans reached the Azores in prehistoric times. She studied upright stones with small openings in them, which were previously thought to be used for squaring blocks of stone. But Costa thinks they're actually part of an ancient calendar system. She noticed that none of the cracks in the rocks align with true east. In fact, the cracks that come closest are smaller than the others. That's too specific to be a coincidence. It also turns out some of the cracks line up with the solar solstices. That's why she believes it could be a calendar. Costa also points out that engravings on the island's rocks closely resemble ancient maps found in Stone Age Europe.
Another fascinating theory is that the Azores might actually be the lost city of Atlantis. Since the archipelago sits right in the middle of the Atlantic, it would technically be an ideal location. A 20th century scholar even used Plato's writings to support this idea. The Greek philosopher had described Atlantis as being between two continents. Some researchers also point to coins and sculptures said to have been found in the Azores when the Portuguese first arrived, evidence, they believe, that someone else was there before them. And in 2013, a sailor discovered what looked like a giant pyramid-like structure under the water off the coast of the Azores. It was probably just a large underwater volcano, but still, wouldn't it be way more exciting if it was something from Atlantis? Peru has its own mystery. Out in the desert there are these strange markings called the Nazca Lines. They're geoglyphs, huge drawings made more than 2,000 years ago by the Nazca people. Because of the dry climate and strong winds, most of the lines have survived until today.
To make them, the Nazca people scraped off the top layer of pebbles to reveal the lighter-colored soil underneath. The difference in color, reddish-brown to yellow-gray, makes the design stand out. Most of the geoglyphs show animals and plants. You can clearly see a monkey, a whale, a condor, a hummingbird, a spider, flowers, trees, and all kinds of other plants. There are also geometric shapes like triangles, trapezoids, and spirals.
Since their discovery in the 1920s, scientists have offered all sorts of explanations. Some say the Nazca people gave these figures religious importance, maybe drawing them so that gods in the sky could see them. Others thought they were some kind of astronomical calendar, with animal figures representing constellations. That theory has since been debunked, so the true purpose of the Nazca Lines remains a mystery. Another puzzling site is Mount Nemrut in Turkey. The mountain is home to a group of ancient ruins, including temples and tombs, built by the Kingdom of Commagene around the 1st century BCE.
There are statues of King Antiochus, 2 lions, 2 eagles, and gods like Zeus, Heracles, and Apollo. Archaeologists found the ruins at the end of the 19th century and initially thought they had been built by the Assyrians. But later, a team of top scholars came and found a Greek inscription that included details about the statues and the royal family of Commagene. It looked like the whole complex was designed to send a message to future generations.
The original statues were full-sized, but over the centuries they've been badly damaged by extreme weather. Temperature swings, heavy snow, strong winds, and intense sunlight. On top of that, the area is prone to earthquakes, so today you mostly see just the statue heads. Still, they're incredibly detailed and massive, especially for their time.
The biggest mystery? How did people, thousands of years ago, manage to create such huge sculptures on top of a mountain? It's clear they carved the limestone blocks on site, not down below.
So stay tuned. There's more history out there waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe to join us on this journey into forgotten history. Like, comment and support our mission to reveal the truth behind